Begin again. Welcome back to Two Cents. I hope you're having a wonderful day, afternoon, evening, or good night. It's me again, Ludwig Permanente, host of the show. This particular episode is going to be like a very short one. I promised myself this year that I'm going to try and at least make one 2 cent video per week. And I'm trying my best to stick to that promise as wholeheartedly as possible. And I decided I'm just going to make a 2 cents video because these videos are like not only really easy to make, they're also really fun to make because I just get to talk to you lot. I know, you don't technically exist. I'm talking to like my phone here as I watch me play a video game. But I like to think we're having a conversation and you're just a listener. I'm trying to get used to the whole one sided conversation thing since my goal in life is to become a teacher. I don't know if I've said it before in this series or in this channel at all, but yeah, that's my goal. So I will have to get used to the whole one way conversation thing. Because, student teacher relationship and all that. Heard people say that being a teacher is hard, and honestly, as a student, I can definitely tell it's hard. My class alone gets all rough and rowdy. I'm not an exception to that. I'm just saying. But yeah, as said, my class gets all rough and rowdy and whatnot, and for a teacher to be a teacher, they must have not only an insane amount of patience to deal with the exact same bullshit day by day, but they also have to balance the whole strictness and kindness thing, since being too strict means your students hate your guts and will fucking rip you apart at a moment's notice. And if you're too good, your students will abuse the fact that you're too good and not do anything in your subject at all. It's a strange psychologic thingamajigger. My former Christian living teacher taught me that. Like, he had to balance him being strict and also him being just a very nice person. And he was probably the main reason why I want to become a teacher in the first place. He's an insanely nice person. Like, holy hell. I've never met a teacher kinder than him. Well, technically, I already have, since I had this teacher when I was in third grade and also in sixth grade, because And speaking of teachers, I feel like I was just telling a story here. And if you're wondering why I'm just telling stories, it's because, well, that's the topic of the video for today. It's nothing much. Originally, I was going to talk about critiquing Theodore Kaczynski's industrial society and its future, but that doesn't sound like a good look on me. Besides, I haven't actually finished the damn thing yet. And you might be wondering, why me, of all people, would be reading essentially a terrorist's writings? Well, I don't actually know. I think the reason was I always wanted to read Industrial Society and Its Future, not because I'm a Ted Kaczynski fan, but because I was interested in what makes people do these kinds of things. What makes a man just explode everyone that, didn't do anything other than just exist one fine day. And I never actually got around to reading or listening to Industrial Society and Its Future, mainly because, one, if I buy it from, say, Amazon, I'll probably be put in some sort of list. I don't know which list, probably a list. And two, even if I were put on a list and I didn't care, I just had no damn money. But today, I found a loophole to that. I remember that the FBI's official page and the New York Times have a full copy of the Unabomber's manifesto, which is industrial society and its future. And what's more, there's audiobooks on it free to use on both Spotify and YouTube. Essentially, nothing was stopping me from just reading. I just didn't know if I should read it. And today was that day I decided to, like, step into it a little bit. Probably because of like this one meme I saw where uh apparently Sony has a patent that in order for you to have a commercial ended, you have to say the brand that's on the commercial. So say it's a McDonald's ad, you have to say McDonald's out loud before Sony actually stops the commercial. It's a mind-bogglingly stupid idea. Like, holy hell, who even thought of that? It's so stupid. And alongside the meme was a mugshot of Ted Kaczynski, the mugshot of Ted Kaczynski. And I decided to give industrial society and its future a spin. And while the first hook, line, and sinker of the book is really good, like, I can never imagine a more memorable quote than the most insane and arguably vague statement that says industrial the industrial revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Like, damn, that's like the first sentence. It just is a really good hook, and it should be a good hook because Ted Kaczynski is a Harvard graduate. He's a terrorist, but he's also a Harvard graduate. I think that may have been the reason why he's a terrorist. Okay, I'm not gonna speculate on that. I am not a detective. I'm just goofing around, making funny haha jokes. I hope to God I don't get knocked one day and say, hey, what do you have to do with this specific brand of terrorist? Anyway, I decided to give it a spin, and honestly, it kind of lost me a bit, even though it had like a really good hook. Uh, a certain part of the book at the very beginning is just all about leftism. Like, it defines leftism in accordance to Ted Kaczynski's own thought of leftism. It is strange, and I do mean very strange. But then again, I should have expected it. This is a fucking terrorist's madman writings. I should have known better. But yeah, he pretty much defined leftism. Uh, in his own words anyway. So it doesn't really mean much. But he still tried to define leftism. Uh, he does raise some good points about leftists being this and that, but still, I feel like that's kind of unrelated. I feel like that's just his way of saying, look, Mike, I'm not a leftist. Don't look really hard into it. Which I suppose he has some merit. I mean, Kaczynski doesn't sound like the most American name to ever. Like, it's probably Polish because they were Polish. I think anyway. I don't know. I haven't actually read too much into Ted Kaczynski. Anyway, yeah, I decided to give it a spin. Lost me a bit, and I'll probably continue like focusing on it on a later date because at the moment I'm just playing. I As I was listening to the audiobook, I was playing Fallout New Vegas, and I was in the Old World Blues DLC, which meant that I wasn't paying attention to the audiobook at all because Old World Blues is like really fun. Also, damn, that was a really, and I do mean really long segment about just Theodore Kaczynski. I feel like that alone should put me on a list somewhere. But it shouldn't, because I don't support Ted Kaczynski. I'm intrigued by his ideas, and that's the end of it. I was originally going to tell you lot a story. It could be any story really, but since I started the video with like school stories, I suppose I can just tell school stories from God knows where. Besides, I feel like it's related because last video I talked about me breaking a window pane. Now we're gonna travel 1 year before that. It was in sixth grade. I have a few of these stories, so I might talk about them in a future date. But anyhow, it was sixth grade and it was around second or third grading. Essentially, our advisor and math teacher, but at that time, had been taking extensive periods of just being absent. At first, no one noticed much, and if they did, they probably just shrugged it off that, she is decently old, but yeah, I suppose she can take a break from time to time. It happens. Sometimes she just gets sick, but as she gets more and more absent, uh, we really have started to notice that she's been missing for like a good chunk of the quarter. We've been wondering why that's the case, and at the time we didn't know, but one of my classmates claimed that he was the first guy to know that our teacher had cancer. We didn't know any of that. All we know is that our teacher frequently went absent. It was at like fourth grading that when it really started to hit home that our teacher is not in like the healthiest conditions. So, during her time of sporadic absences, our school decided to hire this substitute teacher that will maybe temporarily or maybe permanently replace her. It it's an one two-way situation at that time. And first impressions of her, I didn't really like her. Like, to be honest, something about her just ticked me off. Probably because I was more biased towards our old advisor, since she was also my advisor in like third grade, and she'd been my teacher since, well, third grade, at least I think. She could have been my teacher in like first grade up until sixth grade, for all I know. I don't have too much memories of first grade, so anyhow, substitute teacher came in, and I didn't like her as much. My classmates also didn't like her as much, except the ladies, because one thing we've noticed as a collective class, she seems to lean more on like the female students, which was very odd. We literally, that's the first thing we noticed, which is also really odd. And looking back, probably over exaggerated at the time, but then again, we're kids. So anyhow, I've been saying that word a lot, haven't I? And how am I going to say this next? Oh yeah. Uh, and then seventh grade rolled around. Our teacher is still not in the finest conditions, but on the bright side, before seventh grade, she did manage to attend our graduation, albeit now we really know that she has cancer because when she attended our graduation, she was bald. Well, not bald, more like balding. Anyhow, after that, I think it was like a few weeks before our like Christmas party for seventh grade, our the advisor that I've been talking about this whole time, not the substitute, the advisor, had unfortunately passed away. Like, it really hit us hard, uh, especially us former students who were still there. Like, the school, in honor of that teacher, since she had been serving that school for quite some time now, we collectively like paid for some funeral expenses, and we've also and I mean every single one of us have attended the funeral mass and the burial. And at the time I was a band, so we got to play. But damn, during the funeral mass, me and my fellow classmates who were actually taught by her just sobbed. It was probably the first and only time I've ever felt really sad to see someone who is not a family member just go away like that. We never got to say like how good of a teacher she was. And honestly, I think we should have. One of the promises we made her was that we wouldn't cry if she died, because despite her condition back then, she was still very jovial about it, like saying if she died, none of us should cry, or else her ghost will haunt us all. And like at first, we all just laughed it off, but when she actually did die, it was probably like the saddest thing to ever hit us. And even now, as I'm telling the story, I'm actually tearing up a bit. But yeah, it was probably the first time I felt so sad to see a teacher that is not blood related to me go. And come to think of it, that was actually kind of fucking scary at the time. I actually didn't get to enjoy our Christmas party at the time, since for whatever reason our advisor decided to just place the Christmas party the exact same day as like the burial. We were going to do it in like a few hours after. And sure, we had some fun, we goofed off, but it wasn't as fun as it could have been. Because, like, seeing your teacher go like that and be lowered down into 6 feet underground is just something else. I didn't mean to get too emotional, nor did I mean to go into too much detail, and also not be in too much detail since it was kind of sporadic. But yeah, that's all the stories I have for now. Uh, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I am, despite the fact I did cry a bit. But hope you're all having a wonderful day, and see y'all next time. And remember, to begin again is to let go. Ciao.